Okay. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Are we ready for the speed run? Are we ready for the speed run? Are we ready for the speed run? Let's put this rating here. That's much better. Good morning. How are you? How's it going? Alrighty. Alrighty. Okay. Should we start? Yeah, maybe we should start, right? 15 plus 10 rapid games. Let's go. Alright, so we are black. Against d4, let's play Sicilian. Let's now play my favorite opening. I'm gonna go for the Sicilian. So he's picking to go knight f3, trying to most probably opt for the open Sicilian. So now here, of course, there's options. You can play d6, you can play g6, accelerated dragon. Let's play knight c6. Like, the only possible way for white to refute this is to go bishop to b5. But he's not picking Rosalimo. We're gonna take on d4. They'll take back and now play g6, play accelerated dragon. That's our opening for this game. Okay, they play knight c3, we play bishop to g7. That was already very well known. That's how the theory goes, and your point is to focus on targeting this guy in the middle. That's what you want. That's what is your preference, actually. So now they play bishop to e3. We play knight to f6. That's what we are playing. We're playing knight to f6. Okay, for some reason desktop audio is not on. Let me see why. Why desktop audio is not working? You have to hear the moves. Hopefully. Desktop audio. Why desktop audio is not working? Why is that happening? Desktop audio. Okay, he played bishop to e2. So this is not a best move. The best move here was to play the move bishop to c4, because generally what his intentions from black is to push d5. But we firstly want to castle all the time, and then later we're going to push d5. So that's why white should always look for controlling the d5 square. That's how the main line goes. And now since he didn't play that, this is also a possible line. Now we are very open to go for the move d5 and to open up the center. That's what we're going to do now. So we want to open up because we don't have space. Also, this bishop is getting out. And the advantage of this accelerated dragon is we didn't play the move d6. So we can at once play the move d5. So we don't waste time. And that's why we are going now d5 and striking the center. Getting the space. Getting the bishop out. So let's some point, if they play something like queen d2, then even something like knight g4 will be possible. But since now we broke the center, then we are completely focusing on that area and trying to counter our opponent. So there is no still anything new here. Everything is very well known here. I think this is still sort of theory, but less good theory for white, because the best line is bishop to c4, the most active square for the bishop. Sometimes this bishop is exposed on the c line, but that's why they're retreating that bishop on b3. That's the main point. Oh, 500 people on stream? I never thought that's possible. Hello, people. All right. All right. So we are waiting for our opponent to play the move. What he can do here, he can take our knight on c6, we take back with the b pawn, of course. Or he can start firstly trading on d5 and then simply later ruin our pawn structure. But the point is we always get this open diagonal. And then this bishop is coming here and we're just having very nice time developing our pieces. So that's what actually white should do. He should start trading, because currently now the pawn on e4 is hanging. And that's actually the problem for them. Let me recall this as an educational speedrun, because people doesn't know what is this. Educational speedrun. Rating 7. FideMaster. Okay, done. F3, what about F3? F3 is possible, but I think it's not good here, because we're gonna just take, right? And if they take back, that pawn is kind of alone. It's isolated in the middle, and it's generally weak pawn. It's generally weak piece. We can always think about targeting that pawn. And also there is a lot of tactics, because when we take on d4, they take back. Like the fire on this d4 square is really big. Like we have X-ray on that square with our bishop. So you see that now he spent a lot of time, and he finally decided to take on d5. So now we are taking on d5 with the knight. We are not taking here because we actually want to allow him to take our knight on c6. So we retake back with pawn, and then we protect our knight in the middle. Okay, so now queen takes. He has this move bishop to f3. He has that option. And now what he's doing with that, he's targeting our knight on c6. So he's doing great job. So now what's the thing? We have option of retreating our queen to d6. We have option to retreat on d7. We have an option to go on c4. So what is the difference when we look at the line of bishop c4 and this line? Like earlier, we couldn't play the move d4, d5 at all. Now here he's threatening to take here, but if our queen is protected, we don't worry simply about that. So we can also drop the queen back to c6, so to d7, sorry. And after knight takes c6, b takes c6. If we have the trade of queens, then later on we are very safe because our pawn is protected. Or we can go on c4, where we still pressure this knight. They have option to go b3, but that this opens the diagonal. Maybe that's actually smart strategy, to put a queen on c4, and then provoke them to play move b3, and then just to move the queen somewhere, maybe even c3, maybe even b4. So generally requesting from white to create weaknesses. That's what we want. So maybe queen c4 is the idea. What do you think about that? Queen c4. He takes, we take. Yeah, queen c4. Let's put a queen on c4. That's actually a smart move. All right. Yeah, now he can also take that with a bishop, but we always take back with pawn. So generally in the accelerated dragon, you don't really mind even losing this pawn because what you're relying on these strong diagonals and the pressure. So castling on that side for white would be a very bad thing. That would be a very bad thing. Do you think what a most great opening for what? I'm beginner. For white, just play naturally, play normal Italian game. Don't play too complicated. Find some safe zone and play something natural logical. You need to create firstly the stability in your openings before you go like play something else. Just play something natural. Like Italian game. Normal game. Yeah, he's still thinking. Trying to find a way for his pieces. Okay, he played c3. So c3 is protecting the knight, but it's later creating this isolated pawn. So if we double take here, and he takes like this, and we just trade everything, then later he has this isolated pawn in the middle. Like we can maybe apply that strategy now. If we take, maybe the smartest way for them to continue the game is to take with a pawn, because to keep these nice bishops on these two diagonals. But on the other side, I don't want to allow him to take me anymore here, because this will close my diagonal for my bishop. So now it's the right time to take this knight on d4 and trying to create this IQP. That's actually really bad for them, yes. That's actually really bad, yes. Exactly. Yeah, he has many ways how to recapture. There is no intermezzo moves in between. Hopefully he recaptures with a bishop and we trade this pair of bishops. And then even queens, and then later after the c-pawn end up in the middle, a lone pawn, we can start with something like rook d8 to pressure this pawn, and then put a bishop on e6, where we are inviting our opponent to take our pawn here in b7, but then with a nice counterplay, we're gonna take a look and take the pawn on b2. So that will be the great counterplay. So yeah, exactly. This is gonna happen. We are proceeding to the endgame, where we are getting, where we are definitely getting this practical advantage. And now here, rook d8 is a great start, targeting the pawn on d4. If they push this guy, then later on they close the diagonal, and we can focus on that pawn. We can focus on the d5 pawn. That's our strategy. Okay, what do you think for white? What should white do here? Like how he can create a counterplay, what he needs to do. What do you think? What is the best way? Because obviously, black is going to play bishop to e6 or bishop f5, depends if this pawn is on d5. Then I will completely ignore this pawn. I will play something like rook c8. What do you think now for white? What is the strategy? Rook fd1. Okay, that's one start. Then I go something like bishop to f5. Then what next? Okay, he actually played rook from a to d1. The idea of that move is to protect the pawn again, but to keep this rook to attack on e7. That way we're gonna always have king f8 to protect the pawn, so that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. Also, when we play the move bishop f5, we have to be careful of g4. That's something we should be careful. But let's provoke him generally to create a weakness. To push d5, to extend it, and to create a weakness. Because d5 will not be that kind of weakness. It will be weakness in coordination of pawn. It will close the diagonal for this bishop. And this bishop is now getting the initiative. So in endgames, generally, when you got momentum of pressuring your opponent, you should use it all the time. And now what it happens? So since our pawn is saying on b7, defending this pawn with rook b8 will be a very passive decision. So what we are doing instead, we are exchanging the pair of bishops, because then IQP in the middle is getting even more weaker. So we are trading, offering the trade of bishops, then rook takes back, and now we are focusing on that IQP. And we'll see later how white should play, because he's the one that suffers. He has more weaknesses in the position than I have, but he should generate a counterplay, and he started very well. So now, what would you do? Bring the king closer or play the move e6? That's a great question. We can go for e6, because this generally creates nice spot for our rook on d5, but he will play most probably the move rook e5 in both cases. So Will will play king f8, will play the move e6, his next move is this. That's generally what he should do. I'll play e6 anyway, because I want my king later on e7. That's the way how my king will make the route for the middle. In endgames, you should always look to bring your kings to the middle. All the time. So creating the angle to join the game. At some point, white should look to give up this pawn on d4 and try to generate a counterplay. But he has the problem with the first rank, so he's not fast enough. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna bring the other rook to the game. And he will take, we're gonna take back, of course. So for him, it's better to trade rooks, because 2 rooks of black are more dangerous than 2 rooks of white. We are simply pressuring the IQP. So that's a great strategy for white to keep the equality in the game. Try to suffer, try to defend this position. And now there is the rule of 2 weaknesses in chess. It's not enough to attack only IQP. You need to create another trouble for them. And now he blunders. He blunders now. So he thought that I'll take the rook and he'll take back with the f pawn, but he completely forgot about the d4 pawn hanging. And we're gonna just take that pawn. But the game is still not over. We are pawn up, but the game is still playable. And for some reason he resigned. That was very, very strange. I don't know the reason why he resigned, but maybe he was pissed that he lost the pawn. Let's take a look at the analysis here. Now, so always after the speedrun game, we are analyzing the game. We got this accelerated dragon. We played g6. They played knight c3. Of course, here there is possible moves to go bishop e3, bishop g7, and now to go c4. Now, after something like knight f6 or queen b6, the 2 most popular moves, they have options to retreat the knight, to go knight b5. So this is very theoretical field, like this Maroczy bind structures formation. Knight c3. We played bishop g7, pressuring this knight. They defended. I played knight f6, and they played bishop e2. Bishop e2 is a great also prophylaxis against the move knight g4. So that's the benefit of this move of the bishop. On the other side, I castled. And now after castles, I had this move d5, striking the center. So this actually happened in the game. And if the bishop is on c4, that would not be possible, because he will have all of these pieces controlling that square on d5, and simply white will be better. So if we go back, and if he starts with bishop c4, we go castles here. Now d5 is not possible after that, because he has a very big control here. But the point is, we have knight takes e4. So now castling, there is this variation, knight takes e4, sacrificing the knight, because on the end of the day, we are anyway getting the piece back. But what is even important for this opening is we need to open up. We need space, because white has space center and the advantage. We need to open up the position. So that's the point. And that's the point why the best move and the book move is bishop to b3, stepping out of the problems of d5. And now for what is funny here for black, that even without supporting this enough, there's this move d5. That's actually how the theory still goes. Sacrifice of pawn. And now let's take a look. He can take that pawn three ways. He can take with knight, he can take with bishop, he can take with pawn. The best way to retake is, of course, with pawn. Why would you retake with bishop? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you expose your bishop? It's maybe the safest way on the first glance, because you're not losing any pawn. But now there is this strong move, knight g4, which is the main point of d5. Opening up, protecting the g4 square, targeting the bishop on e3, and then later taking this pawn on d4. If they take with knight, they simply lose the pawn on e4. And we are getting back on track. And if they take back with pawn, now black should know here to not take the knight, because you just sacrificed the pawn. For what? For initiative. So you're playing knight a5, targeting this bishop here. So you want to eliminate this bishop and then take the pawn on d5. And now how the theory goes. Queen to f3, then we take on b3, then they take with a pawn, or they even have the option to take with a knight, but it's better to open up the rook. Bishop g4, queen g3, and bishop h5. That's what I know when it comes to theory. You want to take the pawn, that's why you step out of the way with your bishop. And now some d6 move, I remember it appears, and like black is generating the counterplay, but it's still questionable. Like there is knight g4 also. You want to open up the fire on this knight, and so on. Of course, our opponent forget about the theoretical part of this game. He's 1500 and he's missing the theory segment. Now d5, he take, and now we got very natural position. I took with queen, he played bishop to f3, I played queen c4. So white is here comfortable. He should start maybe to go b3, but it's counterintuitive to open up this diagonal. So all these engine moves are very suspicious to play if you don't know how to continue the variation. Doesn't matter, he can harass my queen, but it stays really strong because I'm protecting still my knight. You just open your diagonal, your rook might be hanging in the future, so you need to be careful. Here is very important that you don't have time to take the rook, because he has this intermezzo move, knight takes e7. Always look for this intermezzo trouble. We have to take back like this, and then later we are looking to open fire on these weaknesses and generally use now the problem of his dark squares. He played c3. That was a sort of smart move, but it allows us to keep the momentum and not take this knight on d4. So we are trading. Trading pieces here is not good for white, especially when he's changing the pawn structure. So you have to understand when is the right time to change the pawn structure and when you don't want to change the pawn structure. Why would you change the pawn structure from this to this? And especially enter the endgame. That doesn't make sense. Why? You just made IQP, isolated queen pawn in the middle, that can be only protected currently with the rooks, or if you want to extend it even more to bishop, but that you're risking to close your bishop for the rest of the game. And I have now easy targets. I can attack your pawn. And if I win this pawn, I'm better. I'm better in the endgame. Most probably I'm going to win the game. So instead of going c3 or something, maybe just the easiest way to play is to take on c6. I take back with my pawn, and then to play the move c3. That's the smartest way for white to play. To keep this formation, to like outshine my bishop with his pawns, to lock my bishop, so my bishop is not anymore useful. It will be useful if I undermine your pawn structure with maybe a5, a4, a3. But currently now this bishop is not useful at all. So he reversed the move order, which is not good, but okay. According to computer, according to theory, this is not lost for white, but it's definitely getting easier and easier for black to play. And now at this point, it was the last call for white to push the move d5, because my threat is to go bishop d5. Taking on b7 is looking like a free pawn, but it's actually allowing me to generate a counterplay. So I'm sacrificing this pawn to generate enough counterplay on the b line. He'll move the bishop back, and then I'll take on b2, later on even take on a2, and continue the game that way. He decided to defend this pawn. Then I plant my bishop on d5 here, neutralizing this strong diagonal for my bishop, because if I now play something like rook c8, he'll take the bishop here, and after rook b8, I'm not anymore attacking the pawn on b2. That's the problem. I played bishop d5. We made some exchanges, and now this rook endgame is definitely more comfortable for black, but white is totally fine. He actually found very nice move to trade pair of rooks, because keeping both rooks in the game is suiting black here a lot. Since we can pressure the d4 pawn, I defend the rook, and now what he should do is just to take the rook here. I'll take back with my rook, and now he should start walking closely in the center, where he can make easy draw after that. But what he did, he forgot completely about the d4 pawn, and I just took the pawn and he resigns the game. The point why he resigns is he forgot about that pawn, and after rook takes, I'm getting into the second rank here, and I'm much faster than him. Like, this rook is zoned. He can't access my 7th rank. And to actually get some advantage, you need to create some counterplay on the 2nd rank, or 7th rank on your opponent. I'm much faster than him. Even though he come back and control it, then he loses another pawn here. So he has a lot of trouble defending the stuff in the position. That's why here black is completely winning. Okay, let's go for the next game. Okay, now we are white. We're gonna start with the move e4, my favorite opening. We're gonna start with e4. He responded with e5. So now let's go with a normal knight f3. This is how you should play on all these levels. This is the most natural way of playing. That's my recommendation all the time. And now he played the move bishop c5. This is some sort of gambit. He wants to directly pressure this pawn on f2. If I take, I guess he wants to play something like queen e7. So I'm not taking this pawn. I'm not accepting the gambit. He wants to go maybe the next move, something like knight to f6 to attack this pawn on e4. But I'm going to just develop my bishop here in this diagonal and pretend to not see this pawn is hanging on e5. And also maybe I will strike the center with d4 at some point. So if he plays here the move knight c6, we're going to just transpose into the normal Italian formation. But if he plays knight to f6, which I think that's his idea, he's targeting also my pawn here. Okay, he's going for this. He wants to give me the schooner mate, but of course that's not working here. We're not gonna blunder that. What can I do now? I can go for c3, d4. That's one thing how I can set up my position. Or I can go with a move knight c3 and try to get my knight to d5, where he most probably gonna opt for something like c6 and try to neutralize this. So yeah, let's just go natural. Let's just develop the pieces. Let's pretend that he's making a very bad, useless moves, trying to get for this checkmate attack. But this of course doesn't work. So he now plays the move knight e7 and he protects that square. That's obvious. Okay. At some point we have this idea of d4, trying to open up the center. So we're gonna now just castle. Castle. He played d6 and he wants to pin me. That's obvious, right? He wants to create a spin. That's sort of a little annoying. So we can play here something like h3. Just try to neutralize that. This is annoying threat, because then later we don't have any other angle of defending this knight. And now if he wants to increase the pressure, he will go queen g6 and then try to go for bishop takes h3, where I'm going to play something like king h1 and just avoid that stuff. So he won't have this kind of attack. That's the best way to neutralize these X-ray attacks. just to slide away and avoid any pins. It's important here that our queen is protecting the knight. Other than that, if our queen is somewhere else, bishop takes h3 is already possible sacrifice, and after take to take on f3. But our queen is protecting that knight. So they played bishop e6. They want to trade, and most probably if I take, he wants to open up the f line, which is possible. We can react on that. We can react on that and take it, but we can also just don't pay attention and play the move d3. Why I played that move? Why I allowed him to make my pawns double pawns? It's because it opens my d line and creates the strength over the light squares. So when he takes here, I take back with my pawn. And at this point, we can have a nice control on this d5 square. That's why I'm giving up the structure. I'm allowing him to take my bishop and I take back. This is very common for these positions. So I'm not wasting my time in preparing anything and taking this bishop. So okay, he played h6. The point is to stop some bishop g5, I guess. At this point, we can also go for bishop to e3. The same thing like he did. And pretend that after take, we're going to open up the f line for our pieces. So he can now take here. We're going to take back. He takes here. We take back. We double up our pawn structure, but we're going to get nice pressure on the f line. So he's now playing knight e7. And he wants to retake here with a knight. That's obvious, right? We can go with knight e5, and if he takes with knight, we can sort of like trying to trap his bishop. That's possible. We can also take, he takes back with pawn and push d4, trying to, open up the middle, but correcting the structure, maybe it's not the best option for us here. On the other side, if we plant the knight in the middle and he takes with bishop, we take back with pawn, he can then later harass our pawn on d5. So that's not smart idea here. So what we're gonna do now? Maybe we can play something like queen e2, and then if he takes on c4, we take back, and if he takes here, we take with queen, and just try to later on bring the rook to d1. So maybe we're gonna apply that strategy now. Let's go with the move queen e2. We want our knight, we want our rook on d1. Okay, he starts attacking us on this side of the board. Whenever someone starts attacking you on the other side of the board, you should always look for the quick counterplay in the middle. So if we take, he takes back. That's obvious, right? He wants to take back with a pawn. But on the other side, he's preparing the move g4. And that's something what is really a little annoying. So we're going to take this guy on e6. If he takes back with queen, we directly go and strike with d4. That's what we want. If he takes back with pawn, then we don't have the move d4, but later on he doesn't have control on the light squares. So he played queen to e6. Now it's very big time to strike with the move d4. You want to open up the center. Whenever your opponent starts attacking you on the side, pushing the king side, opening the king, because his king is in the center, by the way, so you're looking forward to open the center, you need to create a counterplay. You cannot start playing passively, bringing your knight back, moving your king, playing g3, trying to push f4. You're not playing on that side of the board. You're ignoring that. And of course, if he breaks through something like g4, you are reacting some way. For example, bishop e6 was played. He is trying to step out of the problems. Now, should you close or should you take? That's a great question. What do you think? What is the best? To take or to close? So if he starts attacking you and opening the king side, you don't want to close the position. So that will be a bad idea to close the position. You're taking on e5, of course. You want to open up the center. You want to open up the D line. You want to open up the angle where you create a counterplay. That's what you're doing. Right? That is our strategy now. Okay. Depends now what he does. He might take on e3. He might take on You see, so he just played bishop b6, now he played bishop takes. Here we can take with a pawn, but the problem is he'll take with knight here, and then later we have this bad pawn. So we take with queen. We don't want to ruin our pawn structure because we are not really depending on opening the f line. We are completely fine with having only d line, and now he will feel generally that this pawn move is very wrong, especially if he now takes with knight. This creates the problems on the light squares. But it's not about the light squares here. We can actually even take this guy here, and after queen takes, start focusing on our open lines, like going rook d1 followed by knight e5 and try to punish their king. Because king going castles this way, never possible. Now we have queen takes a7. If we go knight e4 and then later try to sneak into the f5 or b5, the problem is this knight on e5 is really strong. So we're going to eliminate this knight because we want to make his g5 move pointless. So now g5 is being pointless because there is no support how he can increase the pressure with g4 and so on. We just trade so much pieces and looking forward to open up the middle. Now what he will try, maybe he'll take with pawn back and then reroute a knight to this square. But the problem is I think we are much faster on the other side of the board. And even if he does that, when he jumps on f4, he's not threatening much. We also have the move knight e5, so firstly we're going to bring the rook to d1 here. Because at some point we want to stop his castles. And maybe he wants to generate full counterplay on this side of the board. And this is definitely wrong. Can somebody in the chat tell me why the move f5 is wrong? Like it looks like attacking move, but why is this wrong? Can somebody tell me in the chat? What do you think? Why is this wrong? What is the problem with this? What do you think? Something is missing here, right? I think that there's a big problem behind that move. Okay, so he played f5, but this opens additionally the center. So it opens my e line. I can start pressing his king. So this is the move he should not play at all. Because then later, after we take this guy on f5, there is a big problem with the e5 square. And he should actually maintain this close center like this and start trying to go knight g6, knight f4 and fully focus to checkmate my king. Now when he does this, he's still opening something, but he also gives me a lot of credits for my attack. So now my queen can sneak in these light squares, can go there, can go there. So there's a lot of options for my queen actually where to go. So I'll go queen to e2. I think that's the most flexible position for my queen. I'm threatening queen b5 to give double attack and take the pawn. I'm also threatening to go queen to h5 check. And if he by any chance play the move knight e4, what's happening after that? Knight e4 is a good looking move, but what's happening after that? What do you think? He castled, but what about knight e4? Is anything wrong with knight e4? Yeah, there is rook takes e4, and after pawn takes, we take the queen. That's more like for beginners, but... Okay, so now he castled. That was smart. He stepped out of the problems. And now we can focus on the e line. We can fully focus on that pawn. That pawn is hanging, so he might defend it with rook from rook to e8, of course. Then, to maintain stability for our f2 pawn, our knight at some point will jump here. And what is our idea? We want to trade queens here. If we don't have any big counterplay, we're going to generate the queen trade For example, we can start stacking the rooks later here. So he decided to play this rook. So he's giving up on his attack on the F line, which we of course like. We don't really mind seeing this on the board. Like I like all the time when my opponent looks for trades, because we have another target here on E5. That's IQP. It's not queen's pawn, but it's isolated pawn. So there is isolating. We can attack this pawn here. We can now start bringing our knight here. We can also go for something like queen e6 or queen h5, trying to maintain some pins. Let's start with, maybe we can start with this. Like this looks interesting, provoking him simply to jump on d4. Later on, we're gonna be able to kick this knight with c3, so this will be a nice strategy. Generally speaking, we also have knight f6 ideas. Yeah, he played that because it looked attractive to him, of course. Now we're gonna just move the queen somewhere. We are not depending on this knight too much. We're gonna just find some spot for our queen. Even playing something like queen to d3 is possible. The point is, none of these pins works. We can always play c3, and if he jumps with some knight, there is no useful discovery. That's the point. Like, you're gonna feel some danger stepping on the open line in front of your rook, but there is no useful discovery. And also remember that this rook on d8 is hanging, so I can sacrifice the queen and get the material. So then he's being in a big problem. This is not great strategy for him. He actually played king g7, which is an interesting prophylaxis, because usually he's in a problem with a move knight f6, and at some point our queen could come on g6. So it's a nice move, but anyway king is exposed. So I'm gonna continue with my pressure. I'm gonna play the move c3, trying to like get out of this knight from d4, which is a great knight, at some point closing my line, but on the other side it's not a big deal. And now, can somebody tell me where this knight should go? Do you see any nice route for this knight? This knight on e4 is being a little bit weak. a2 pawn is hanging, but is he really safe for him to take that pawn? Like, we can always go queen d7, right? Start attacking the king. Knight c5 is possible. Knight c5 is possible. Then how are they gonna defend still this guy here? They're gonna play maybe queen f7, queen f6, or queen c8. Also, earlier there was idea to jump with a knight on h5 and start doing something on this side of the board. Now we have many options, of course. It's just a question, how do we continue? Where do we go now? Most probably they want to bring this knight to d6 and try to close the line. But since we are maintaining the pressure, they are not able to do that for now. We can try knight c5. Let's go for knight c5. This is initiative. Why not? Targeting the queen and targeting the knight. Knight g3 idea before c3. We could try knight g3. Yes, here we could try knight g3. It was actually very smart. But I think c3 and all of this is totally fine. We have nice pressure anyways, so it exists. Yeah, c5 was great. Knight g3 looks like a passive, but it's not a problem. Okay, so now what he misses? He took on a2 and he misses something. What do you think? What he forget? Queen takes f5. Yeah, queen takes f5 is just a free piece. And he might resign after that because game is simply over. Rook is coming to d7. We are checking the king, and then we are sneaking in with our queen for the checkmate. And he resigns. Okay. That was actually a very fast game. We can analyze this, of course, as usual. As we're always doing. That's the point of these speedruns. So now e4, e5, knight f3, bishop c5. Now I play the move bishop c4. But let me firstly think, how do I enable the sound on the board? I don't know why it's not working. Why the sound on the board is not working. It was working the last night when I was adjusting my setup. Why is it not working? What's the problem? What's the problem here? What's the problem with the sound? Sounds like everything is working here. This is working. This is working. Okay, maybe something in the settings. Sound settings. Okay, let me see here. Do you hear the sound now? No, no sound still. 1 second, I don't know. I don't know. If I go here. How about this? Still no sound. Still no sound for some reason. Maybe website is muted. Maybe sound of the pieces are not working. Let me take a look in the play sound. Yeah, that's the problem, right? Let's now go back. Oh yeah, okay. Now you hear the sound of pieces. Okay, yeah, that's better. Let's just drop it a little bit. Yeah, okay. That was a problem. For some reason in the settings was not working. Okay. Weird. All right, let's take a look at analysis. So this opponent played a move bishop to c5. And he most probably wanted to apply some gambit. I thought that for a second, but this pawn is actually hanging on e5. You could take that pawn. And on queen e7, you can just play d4. This defends the bishop and this defends the knight and attacks the bishop. So there was no need to go with something like I did in the game, bishop c4. He can just easily transpose here into the Italian game. So I thought he was preparing some gambit, to be honest with you. But bishop c4 is also a totally fine move that you can play. Queen to f6 is creating the problems on the f2, but since we have the knight, there is no this cooler mate idea. So we're playing naturally the move knight c3. And we want to jump actually on d5. So he did smart move, knight e7, stopping that. I played castles, just very natural move. He played d6. And now at this point, I should strike directly with the move d4. The problem with responding on that is even if he takes with e takes, then there is this expansion in the middle with e5. So you're not waiting a single second to him to castle. So you're applying full pressure on his king. That's when it comes to initiative. But for your level, it's really hard to generate that, I understand, on this level. So playing something like h3 is totally fine. Just reducing the counterplay of your opponent and not allow him to go on g4 with his bishop. But this idea and later even something like knight b5 could work very well because king is in the center and you want to apply immediate pressure. The point after all of this, there is the move knight e4 also. And he doesn't have a good spot for the queen to come on e7 and to keep connection with the pawn on e5. But I played the move h3, trying to stop bishop g4. He played bishop to e6. And I just played the move d3. If he takes, I mentioned that I want to open the d line. And generally, I want to have a nice spot for my knight here. I want to jump here with my knight. And later on, my bishop could be there. My knight could be here. So we have solid position. He played h6. He got scared of maybe something like bishop to g5. I understand that. So that's a nice move. Preventing the counterplay. I played bishop to e3, and of course he could take this guy here and open my f line, but this looks a bit scary for him because at some point our knight could land on f5 and generate some counterplay. Position is now equal. I allowed my opponent to consolidate, but we are still having very natural and nice position, while his pieces a little bit are weird. Like, this is not a placement for the knights. Knight belongs here and here. That's the most natural squares for the knights. I played queen e2. And now what I want with that, if he takes, I want to bring my rook now to the d line. That's the point and the idea behind this trade. And also if he takes here, I want to take with queen. And now we are preparing full pressure on the D line. I want to jump here, maybe reroute my knight. At some point play on g4, depends what he does. He played g5, and that's actually not the best move, because he's opening up the king side, and whenever someone starts attacking you on the king side, you should open up the position. So we took on e6 with our bishop. He should take back with a pawn if he wants to keep the control over the d4 square. That's definitely a much smarter idea for them. But what he did, he took it actually with a queen, and this allows us to go for the break. d4, something I should do much earlier. Something that is very important for us. Earlier we had a chance, and now if we didn't catch that chance, they're gonna apply full pressure and start giving us checkmate threats. So d4 is must needed move. They played bishop b6, and I told you to not close with d5. It's generally possible, but now once they move the queen or queen f6 or something, they're suddenly getting easier attack, because I don't have certain counterplay on the queen side. I close the position, and that's what and where many people are making mistakes. Unnecessarily closing the position. So you don't want to do that. You want to open up like I did. There is a king in the center. You want to open up the D line. Takes. He took on e3. I just took back with my queen. He took with a knight here. We just traded many pieces. And then finally he took back with a pawn. So what this tells us? The pawn g7, g5 shouldn't be there. It's much better now to have your pawn here. Why? Because it's simply creating the weaknesses on the king side. And once I start applying the pressure here, your attack knight g6, knight f4 is not any more useful, because you go there, I go knight e5, I have more threats. Now c7 is hanging. I also protect the f4 square. My queen can go on b3, my queen can go on c5, so you don't really have time even to castle, because now you have consequences on this pawn, and that's a big trouble. So what he did actually is even worse. He played move f5. And now for those viewers that didn't see that part, can somebody tell me why this move is bad? For the new viewers, what do you think? Why is this move bad? It looks good, like you are extending your pawn, generating very nice pawn chain, having all pawns together, but there's something wrong behind this move. What do you think? Okay, the point is, he's opening up the center. So when we take the f5, give me 1 second. So when we take on f5, this pawn is hanging. This pawn on e5 is hanging because it's a isolated pawn, and he just opened the way for our pieces to start attacking the king. Its center becomes more sensible, so this is something he should never do. This is a bad move. He should go maybe knight g6, short side castles, and try to save the king from problems in the middle, and then later to look somehow to attack my king. But it's still very sensible because the d-line gets open. And if we somehow have the close center, like we had earlier, for example like this, my attack will not work. So that's the point why we traded the pieces, because we need to generate certain counterplay. So we made some trades here, and I stepped back with my queen. Like many people would go up, go somewhere else. But this is a nice move because I have queen h5, I have queen b5, so I have a lot of threats actually. And I still maintain the problem on his e5 pawn. Now knight e4, for example, attack on the queen doesn't work because we simply take the knight, and after they take back, we take the queen and we win the game. So after queen e2, they castled. I played rook e1 to attack this pawn. They defended with the rook from f to e8, but maybe this rook was better because it's simply keeping the pressure on this line, and now maybe he wants to go on h4 and then start doing something on the king side. Instead, he went for this. Now I position my knight in the middle, where I'm getting some nice angle of forks, threats, and so on. He played knight e4, which was an interesting move. Earlier on, this move didn't work. If you remember, we could take this guy. But now it works because we closed the E line. So now our queen is under the attack. We can go with our queen on h5, obviously, trying to use these light square weaknesses. But I played the move queen d3, which is absolutely fine, because we also get some X-ray discoveries, like moving the knight, attacking the queen, and then again joining on the king side. So we have multiple threats. Also, we want to play c3 to kick this knight from that spot, because it's an annoying piece. They play king g7, and with this move, they're making sort of prophylaxis, like stepping out of the problem. Like generally, queen g6 is a future threat, and that's the point why they're playing the move king to g7 and stepping out of the problems from forks. I played c3, knight is now moving away somewhere, like knight f5, and then we go knight to c5. Maybe it was even possible earlier to go knight g3, like trying to get on h5 square and attacking the king on g7. That was also very possible. I played c3, and that's the point behind my move. I wanna move this knight from that spot to open up the d line. That's what I want. And once he moved on f5, now I play knight c5. So I'm provoking queen where the queen will go. And what my opponent did, he played queen takes a2, and he completely forget about the knight on f5. So I just took the knight on f5, and now the game is over. Because I'm piece up, rook d7 is coming, and then slowly we are going to give the checkmate to the king later. So queen f7 back, there is rook d7, and it's very, very hopeless for them. And that's how my opponent resigned. So let's go now for the other game. Let's start other game. Okay, on Twitch we have 800 people. Is this real? Like, can somebody tell something in chat? Because this feels very unreal to have 800 people like this. Is this fake viewers or something? Can you say something? Type 1 in chat if you're alive, if you're real. Okay, now we are going to play King's Indian. I'll play knight f6. I'll play knight f6 and then try to counter this pawn on d4. That's what I want. So he played d4. I want to go with a King's Indian formation. Usually he plays London. Okay, how to play against London system? How to play a London system? That's a great question. We're gonna neutralize now this bishop directly with a move d6. The point is, London players usually like to have this nice diagonal and to generate something on the queen side. So we're gonna start with this. And I'm going to show you a very nice idea, very nice theoretical idea. I'm going to play the move knight b7. So I still keep the angle to go King's Indian. That's what I want. What is your real rating? My real rating is 2200 FIDE. And on chess.com I have around 2700. I'm fluctuating around that rating. So now he plays the move knight f3. And the point of this setup was to play the move knight to h5. So usually what they should do is to have the gap for this bishop to come on h2 square. So much smarter move for them here was to play the move h3, where this creates the angle for bishop to come back on h2. But they forgot about their bishop, and now after this we're gonna just simply take their London bishop. Now they take back, and now it seems like, oh, we open their h line, that's scary, but it's not scary. We just go g6, we go bishop to g7, and then we strike in the middle. So we don't want necessarily to go short side castles. We want to see him going the short side castles. And then later we're going to castle ourselves, but we don't really mind now having the open h line. We go bishop to g7, and now we are ready to strike in the middle. So that's what they're doing. They're playing c3. They want to be slow like knight bd2, queen c2, and maybe even long side castles. So we don't really mind like striking now directly e5. We need to open up. We need to show our King's Indian formation. That's what we want. That's our goal. He is now struggling also to find the barrier for this. He's now struggling. There is option to go queen e7 and e4, which creates the problems for his two pieces in the middle. And if he takes here, if he takes on e5, we can take with knight. We can also take with pawn. That's also smart, because we still want to generate the e4 tactic. And this opens the d line. So if he casts on long, he actually played e4. He actually played e4. What do you think about this move? Is this move great? I think this move is really bad for two reasons. Firstly, he's playing with a pawn. He's not playing with the pieces. He should develop the knight, develop the queen, and then keep the things flexible for the castles. Of course, but most probably he should cast on long. Probably echoing. What do you mean echo? What do you mean echoing? Am I echoing here? What do you mean echoing? Am I echoing here? Huh, I see. Okay, my bad. my bad. Okay, so now you don't hear it. So now the problem is he played with a pawn instead of playing with pieces. He should develop the knight. That's what I mentioned. Second thing, he allows me now to take and to open the e-line pressure. So now this pawn becomes more sensible. And not just the pawn, this diagonal becomes more sensible. Most probably he'll take back with pawn to generate the nice pawn formation. But then after c5, we are reopening this diagonal. So for the King's Indian players, this makes a lot of sense. Generating a ton of counterplay in this diagonal. This was the wrong move. And also what this move does. So this is multifunctional bad move for them. Multi-bad move purpose. This bishop is getting closed. So that's another thing. It's another reason why this move is really, really bad. And he is now struggling. If he takes back with knight, that could be fine. But then what's the purpose of e4? Why did you play the move e4? You could take with a knight either way if your pawn was back on e3. There was no need to close up this diagonal for white light square bishop. Okay, he take it back with a pawn. And now it's a question. We open up the angle for this knight to come into the game. That's true. But we generally have this very strong move c5. So after c5, if he takes, we have this bishop takes b2. So that's what is nice for our position. On the other side, I want my king so badly in the castles, but I also want to be quick. I want to have momentum here. So maybe going directly c5 is a very nice thing. We can maybe just try directly to go c5. Like, we have the option for castles, but we want to have the option of directly striking on b2. So if he plays now d takes, I have bishop takes b2, and then I win the rook. If he goes now d5, I have still that idea. Or at least I'm getting these dark squares. At least I'm getting these dark squares. I can also delay that and take knight c5. That's also very possible. Just take here with a knight c5 and put a pressure on these pieces. Most probably the best option was just firstly to castle, to settle the king on the king side, and then to go with knight takes c5 and c5. That was actually, I think, the best option, but c5 is also fine. The counterplay. Okay, he played this move. Bishop to b5. He's pinning our knight. He's playing again with bishop. Earlier in the opening, as you remember, He played already once, now he's playing twice. He's playing again with bishop, he played with pawn, so the play of white is totally wrong. He might have better king in the castles than playing with a bishop. Also, knight c3 was better move than this move. I don't really want to take now here, because he can ignore that. My pawn is bad on d4. I want to keep this diagonal open. So I won't castle now just to get out of the problems of this pin. And now maybe people will think, why did you castle when you're stepping into the open h line? So sometimes queen a5 could work, but there is the move knight c3. So there is defense. I didn't want to give this check. People would think also that's winning a bishop, but there is knight c3. And I don't really want to have my queen on a5 if there is no need to get the queen there. But let me get to the point why my king is going castles. Like maybe people will think, oh, you're stepping into the checkmate attack. Why are you doing that? The point is, there is no checkmate attack. To have the checkmate attack, queen has to stay here or here or here, somewhere here. So getting the queen there, it's almost impossible. There's no way for the queen to get there. Like h5 is never possible. If he goes d2 and g5, we can even trade. So that's not happening. Knight g5 could happen before the queen getting on the h line, but we are still covering that square. And rook alone is not doing anything. So for white needs a lot of time to generate and give us a trouble on the h line. In the meanwhile, we are faster to apply the pressure in the center. We are much faster to generate the pressure in the center. So that's why the checkmate attack, we are not scared. And there is no any other problem for us on the king side. That's the point why I should not get scared and castle this way then. Drop the follow, guys, and let's reach 20 follower goals today, if possible. Queen d2. So this was interesting move. Trying to get developed. But a problem with this move is he wants to get out and he wants to get here. He wants to generate a counterplay, but we are much faster. We are much faster than them. So we can go for the move rook to e8 and start pressuring this pawn here. That's possible. We can also just take the pawn. Why not to take the pawn and just look for our knight to jump here. So we need to develop our pieces. That's the point why I took this pawn. And also this pawn could be a free pawn if you don't take it. So why not to have the pawn generally in the game. And then after knight c5, we're going to attack the e4 pawn. I told you to not worry about anything here because there is no queen entrance. He can go queen f4, queen h4, but still all of that is covered and we can easily trade the queens if needed. So he took with knight. There's a lot of spikes here, so knight cannot do anything. Knight is simply not getting into the game. And after knight c5, we are attacking the pawn on e4. So that's what is good. We're going to go knight c5, targeting the pawn on e4. So now defending with f3. It's really defending the pawn, but the problem is then we are looking to open up the position. King is in the middle, so we want the rook here. Currently now it's not possible because there is a bishop on b5. So we might kick this bishop out of the way. Maybe queen a5, queen f6 is strong. Yeah, queen f6, queen a5, queen b6, all of this is possible. So it's generating nice counterplay. All of that is generating nice counterplay, of course. We could play earlier queen f6, but I like to play with minor pieces. So there is no need here to panic. Like also on queen b6 earlier. Yeah, queen b6 might be actually interesting move, but he could take our knight on d7. So if you think here, queen b6, he'll take on d7. And even if I take on d4, he'll take my bishop. So that's the reason why I moved the knight. He defended, obviously. And now it's time for some pressure because we moved our knight. So we are looking for the threats first and captures. We can take the pawn in the middle, but they'll take back, so we don't really benefit from that. But on the other side, if we take, they take, then we might have this idea of queen b6. But there is no need to sacrifice. We can also go for a6, and when they move the bishop, go rook e8. But on the other side, they're very ready to castle very soon. So we have to be careful of not allowing the huge counterplay to our opponent. So maybe we should start with a6, b5. Maybe we should go for that. Let's try this. a6 and b5 and b4, trying to undermine the defender from e4 square. Trying to kick this defender out of the way. So now he has a problem of reacting on this queen side. Okay, he moved away. He's maybe planning to castle, but we can hold b5, b4, trying to attack his knight from c3 and then take the pawn on e4. That's nice idea. But what is even better, to immediately apply pressure on e4. There is no need to create weaknesses, because once you move the pawn, you tell your opponent one information. You give him one information, and that's that c6 is anymore not protected by your pawn on b7. So there is no need to go crazy like this with your pawns when you can attack with your pieces. There is no need to panic about that. On the other side, f3 could be possible, defending the pawn, but this creates the weakness on g3. So after each pawn move of your opponent, they're creating some sort of weaknesses backward. So there is no more backward pawn to defend something. Like after f3, there is no pawn from f2 to defend g3 and e3. And you're trying to apply pressure on that. So now my opponent castled long. So he gave up the e4 pawn. And this is generally a great offender over this diagonal. So once we take here, they take back. We take with rook, then we attack the knight. So they just blunder something. We're going to take that guy, of course. It's important to say that there is no useful discoveries with this knight. And there is no good entrance for the queen and get checkmate our king. So it feels still very dangerous to have open h line. But as I tell you, did you realize that our opponent didn't have any single idea how to attack our king? He decided to take. We take back on e4. So we attack the knight now with our rook and with our bishop. They have to move the knight. After moving the knight, this opens the diagonal. And then bishop f5 will come. Together with all these pieces, we're going to just go for the checkmate. And that will be a game over. He has to move the knight now. And then after that, we're going to play the move bishop to f5, followed by rook c8. And our opponent can simply resign after that. You'll see in a few how that works. Okay, he moved the knight on f3. He wants to go on g5, but he forgets about one problem. That his king is generally weak. And after a few moves, the game will be over. Why? It's because rook c8 is coming, and when he slides away on b1, we will get some useful discoveries and patterns for tactics, where we win ton of material. And that could be a game over for them. That will be actually game over. So he played knight g5. Can somebody in the chat tell me the combination now, how it works for us? What do you think? How we can get the game this to the end? How we can make this game to the end? What would you do? Tell me, chat. Queen c7 is good. What else is good? If you play queen c7, maybe I will have the move queen to c2, and I'll trade queens. Queen c7, queen c2. Yeah, somebody mentioned rook c8, and after king b1, rook to e2, and that's literally game over. Yeah, rook c8, check. King has to slide away on b1, and then we go with discovery, easy tactic. Rook e2. And that's game over. He can't stop anything about that. If he goes queen c3, we just take the queen. And that's the power of King's Indian setup. And when you always have opposite side castles, you look to open the other side of the board. So all trouble for him started much earlier when he pushed the move e4 and he made the d4 more sensible. Everything started with that, but stay tuned. We're going to analyze this game after we're finished, what we generally do. Refresh site after game, you have sound glitch on your moves. Double sound, yeah, because I had double windows, so I turn it off. Are you planning to play tournaments in Santa generally? No, generally no. There's something huge that might come on this channel in a few days. I'm gonna decide that today, but I might go to play in Sweden the Relton Cup. That might gonna happen. It's depending today on one important call, and if that call went smooth, I'll go to play Relton Cup, and you're gonna get streams for 10 days in a row from Saturday. So you're gonna see me live playing on over the board chess from Saturday until like 5th of January or something. But I don't wanna jinx it too much because I'm not sure if that's gonna happen. It's last minute organization. And he played queen to c3. Obviously, even 500 player would see that this queen is for free. But if you want to play with your opponent, you could also take the knight with check. That's also very possible. But we're gonna just take the queen with the bishop. Let's take it. There is no checkmates, by the way, on h7. There is nothing wrong about the king, and now the game is over. He'll resign very soon. He decided to play more. We're gonna not take the knight with check. He should resign now, most probably. Yeah, the game is now simply over. Waiting for resignation. We are plus 10 in material, so okay, he went king to b2. Now we're gonna take in bishop with check, so he's getting out. Let's find a way to checkmate him quickly. Let's drop the bishop back so our queen is coming to a5 with a nice checkmate. Restricting the king. Also, there is this. Are you gonna play tournaments in Belgrade? Yeah, tomorrow is a Blitz tournament. Final Grand Prix tournament that I'm gonna play. That's gonna be also most probably streamed. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. Where are you from, bro? I'm from Serbia. Yeah, we are waiting for him to resign. I don't know why it takes so much time for him. But he has full rights to... Okay, now let's go for rook takes a2 check. And then queen to c5 or a5, even more beautiful, would be a checkmate. I could speak on my language, of course, but I'm not doing that on the stream, so its game is over. Okay, so rook takes a2, finish the game. Let's take a look at analyze, as we're usually doing. So what was the problem in this game for our opponent? So this was a great setup against the London. You can take a look in your repertoire. He played e3 and I played knight e7. So now it's really important for him to go to move h3. So when you're making this pawn formation, you just want to counter this bishop on f4 and you want to make him bad. Because sometimes when you go knight h5, let's say you play the line with d5, he goes knight f3 and now you go knight h5. This doesn't make sense because now bishop also have the access to go even here, even back. And that's not good move when bishop has the option also to come on e5. So that's why you're playing here the move d6, testing him out. He played e3, you play knight b7. And now he should play the move h3 because knight h5 is still not possible because of the queen. And even later, if you go g6, knight f3, now knight h5 doesn't make sense because bishop can just drop back to h2. So that's the point of our setup, of the theory. So now, actually the best and the most flexible way for white to start this position is now to play like this and now h3. Or he can pick this line with knight c3 and try to play the move e4 to generate this version of Pirtz where he has, of course, always nice setup. But the point now we have the move c5. That's how the theory goes. We play c5 and then after that, if he takes, we take back with knight. Then we go g6, bishop g7 and we got very nice version of King's Indian. Where the setup of this bishop on f4 doesn't really make sense now. Because what he's hitting, there is nothing on this diagonal. Again. But he played e3, I played knight d7, he played knight f3, and this allows us to win this bishop. Even if he goes bishop g5, the point of this is to go and harass this bishop all the way to g3. This exposed a little bit our king side, but still we got a very nice position and the point of extending the pawn in the middle later. So bishop to g3, we took the bishop, they take back, and now we play the move g6. We want our bishop on g7. They played bishop to d3, developing the bishop, but he's hitting this wall of pawns. I played bishop g7, he played c3, so he's developing naturally. I pushed e5. I still don't want to castle because I'm very flexible with that, and I want to keep the momentum in the middle. I want to play maybe next move even c5 and try to open up the center completely. He played e4 and I mentioned that this move is really bad. Why is this move bad? It's simply because it's creating the dark square weaknesses and opening this diagonal for our bishop. He should actually keep this pawn on e3 and play something like knight b2 followed by queen c2 alongside castles. And later on, of course, try to fight on the king side if we castle there. That would be much better plan for white. But with e4, he opens not just this diagonal more, he also makes the sensible e line, like actually it happened in the game. So I took on d4, he took back with a pawn, and I told you that I strike with c5 directly. The castling is also possible, but of course the best move is c5 because we want to keep the momentum. We want to keep the momentum and strike directly this pawn. If he takes, bishop takes b2 is winning the rook. So that's the point why we play the move c5. He played bishop b5, and the point of that move is to pin the knight and to defend the pawn. But since he's playing already twice with his bishop, that's not good. That's not great. That's simply not great. We can now castle, like I did in the game, and later focus on the E line. That's a big problem for them. He played queen d2, trying to, I guess, prepare the castle long. I took on d4 because I want to get the square for my knight to c5. So we are pressuring this pawn, and we don't want to play knight f6. We don't want to play knight b6. We want to bring our knight strictly on c5, where the knight actually makes a lot of sense, attacking the knight and opening the way, attacking the pawn on e4 and opening the way for our bishop to come to the game. That's what we want. So he took on d4 with the knight, and at this point, people in chat recommended to go queen f6 or queen b6. It's actually good, yeah. Queen b6 is good, and after bishop takes, we take on d4 with our queen. They take it back, I guess, here. We take it back here. They take it here, and now the pawn on b2 drops, where we are winning the rook. So this combination worked, calculation worked, but knight c5 is also a very nice move, like just developing and trying to quickly get a rook on the e line. He played knight c3 to defend that pawn. We played a6 to kick this bishop from this diagonal where it stops us to play the move rook e8. Once I played the move rook e8, he castled. That was a wrong move. He should defend this pawn with a move f3. It's creating the weaknesses and allowing us to make more pressure even on the d line, where after d5 we want to open up everything, of course. But after castles, he simply drops this important pawn, the pawn that really matters in his position, and we just took that pawn with our knight. After taking that pawn with our knight, we attack the queen, attack the knight here. He takes it back with his knight, and now after rook takes, there is no good way to keep this knight on here and close our diagonal. So he's in a big trouble. He's in a very big trouble. He played the move knight to f3, drop the knight back, and now we play the move bishop to f5. The point of that move is to make this X-ray, so whenever he moves the king and try to slide away from this diagonal, we got this nice discovery. Already here the game is over, because he cannot really stop the threat of rook c8 or queen c7 or something. There is no enough counterplay. He tried something with knight g5, but after rook c8, game is over. If he slide away, there is this nice discovery, winning the rook and winning the queen. He tried queen c3. We just take the queen with the bishop. He take back with a pawn, and now we just take on g5. And that's game over. King to b2. We take on e2. He goes there. We drop with the bishop to create queen a5 checkmate. He tried to stop that. We take here, and after that, game is over. If he comes here, queen c5, or even what is more attractive, is to give the checkmate with a pawn on a5. And that's it. Game is over. Right? Okay, that was good, right? That was really good. We can go now for the next game. All right, stay tuned. This is the final game for today. They're playing d4 again, and we're gonna again play the King's Indian. Why not? King's Indian is our favorite opening. I also play the Carlsbad structures with e6 and d5, but I like to show you the ideas in King's Indian. Let's go bishop g7, and generally understanding the theory. So he played knight c3. We're gonna just castle short. He most probably gonna push e4, trying to get that center. He decided to play g3, which is nice line. This is a nice fianchetto line. Can somebody delete this comment? This is totally wrong. How do I delete that? You're muted. Bishop g2. Okay, so he wants to later to push e4. That's what is his idea. And now there is a lot of moves here for black. I think the most practical way of playing against this setup is to play the move knight bd7, but there is also an option to go c6. But let's go knight bd7. That's the most practical way. Castles. And now we can go directly for e5. Why not? Strike the center. What sort of troll is this? I don't know. I think somebody is also botting the stream because there were like 800 people. That was not possible. People would talk. If there is 800 people on the stream, I'm talking about Twitch because I'm also restreaming it on YouTube. If there is 800 people on the stream, like, people will talk for sure. So not sure if this is real viewers or something, but somebody's botting the stream maybe. I don't know. I don't like that. So he took here. And now taking on e5 is possible with both, of course, with both pieces, with a knight and with a pawn. Generally here we would like to take with a pawn, because later after going c6 we're gonna zone this knight. And if you go something like bishop g5, like, our pieces are very ready to control the middle. So even something like queen c7, knight c5, like, our pieces are now doing great job. I think my opponent should not take on e5. That's not the best way of playing this line. I used to play this line a lot as white. So he now jump in the middle. As usual, we don't really mind trading. So I'm going to play c6 and harass this knight. If he takes me there, I'm going to take back even with queen. I can even take with bishop. Taking with knight is bad because we are dropping the pawn. So we're going to take this guy here with a queen now. If he takes the bishop out and play g5, then we're going to just drop our queen on e6, where we also attack this pawn on c4. And playing something like b3 is really risky, because in the future, e4 tactics could appear and generally creating a lot of trouble on this diagonal for him. e4 now, let's calculate. e4 now, he plays knight e4. He attacks our queen. We don't want to eliminate it. We don't want to take it with our bishop. The problem is because we want to save this bishop for later. I didn't know you stream on Twitch. Hello, hello. Yeah. The Epstein files shouldn't be released. Prove me wrong. Kramnik cheats. The Epstein files shouldn't be released. Prove me wrong. I heard about that. Anyways. So we want to go e4. But the problem is knight e4. We have queen e5, which attacks both pieces, but he has this bishop e3 drawback. And then he's sort of safe, but we got a lot of space in the middle. So we could apply that. We could apply e4 followed by queen e5. That's possible idea, but he'll save his position with bishop e3. We can still go with c5, but he can drop the piece back and protect the rook. And we don't want to really open up too much our position. We don't want to necessarily go too much. But he's also threatening to push himself e4. So if we don't do that directly and open up now, he might close it, and then our bishop will feel stuck on this diagonal. He played here. That was obvious. And now we're going to play the move queen e5. So we are attacking this and we are attacking this. They have problems with safety now. Like, he's required to play only moves, otherwise he'll lose the piece. And now in this position, we want to open up finally our bishop. Our pawn is enough protected. Our diagonal is protected. So we make the successful King's Indian coordination. And at this point, we can play something like knight to f6. Knight to f6, we want to go knight g4 and attack this bishop here. So that's actually a nice idea. Very important stuff is to say that this knight is sort of restricted. There's a lot of spikes, so he cannot really jump anywhere. There's no any useful discoveries. And they have a lot of problems with that. So knight g4 is coming, where we are definitely threatening this bishop. We can actually apply that directly. They have definitely a lot of problems in facing that move. Like if they move the bishop, then they drop the knight. That's a big problem now for white. And of course, if he managed to double up these pawns, then later the pawn on e3 is hanging a lot of the time and having a lot of trouble. So in King's Indian, even sometimes it's really important to just get to open this diagonal. Like that's what you want. Open your diagonal, and even if that costs you a pawn, it's really nice. So he played knight to c2. That's smart move. He wants to replace this bishop with a knight. But we just take that guy, of course, and we got a bishop pair now. We got a bishop pair. We like that. Later on, we might play f5 and completely zone this bishop. And our strategy is simple. We want to get developed here, put the rook on d8, stack the rooks in the d line, and play on his bad pieces. That's what we want. Do you use kick? Not kick. I used it in the past, but I like Twitch more now. I think there is more chess people here. I think kick is more for... I tried it there, but it's not working. It's just not working. I think people in chess don't like kick for some reason. I don't know. So knight to e3. Again, knight is restricted, very restricted. He can't get to the game. So I don't really want to go f5. I don't threaten anything still with f5. I just want to develop my pieces. So I'm gonna play the move bishop to e6. I'm ready for rook fd8 or rook from a to d8. And later on, I want to simply apply the pressure on these diagonals. So I might push the pawns like b5, a5, and try to generate the attack there. If you want to open up this bishop, still, on the end of the day, bishop will not get open. He'll have a lot of trouble generally opening this bishop all the way. Even if he somehow wins this pawn, this is not completely open for him. Guess my country. I guess you're from India. You look different in specs. Specs. You look better without specs. Just saying, bro. What do you mean by specs? What is specs? Specification or what? Layout or what? I don't understand. Okay, so we want to go on d8, as I mentioned, stack the rooks, and have a very nice game. We're waiting for our opponent to make the move. Okay. Our opponent takes so much time. I think that... Okay, he played a4. He wants to, expand maybe, but I think this just helps me to attack his pawns even more. I can also go something like a5 and try to stop his pawn expansion completely. But on the other side, we can just simply focus in the middle. Like, there's a lot of plans now for black here. We can go rook from a to d8, attack the queen. We can also go f5, f4, trying to get attack on the other side of the board. That's also a possible idea. Maybe that's the smoothest idea. But queen c2 will always pressure the e4 pawn. So even playing f5 and later f4 will not guarantee me to have the pressure on... to have pressure on the king side, because my pawn on e4 will be hanging. So we can just focus on the d line. That's one plan. That's one part of the plan. Like maybe we can play rook from f to d8, attack the queen. That's one part how we're gonna start. And then later we want to go rook d7, followed by rook d8. Now he attacks our pawn. So we're gonna play move f5 now. The move that we don't partly to play, but on the other side we don't care, since this bishop is closed and our king is always safe with his bishops. We really need to open up these diagonals if we want to play on the queen side. That's our main plan. Yeah, we are waiting again for our opponent. Most probably he has to trade the rooks. Rooks are very strong on my side. Okay, he played f4. And now, chat, question. What do you think? What do you think about a pawn move on f4? What is happening about that move? What do you think? Is this a good move? What happens after this? Did he miss something here? What do you think? Anybody? Anybody knows what's the problem with this move? En passant and both minor pieces under the attack. Yeah, but there's rook takes f3. There's rook takes f3. It's a good option, of course, to play, but rook takes f3 protects everything. En passant. Yeah, en passant is possible, but it's not good. There is very strong move queen c5. So why queen c5 is a winning move? It's because it's pinned the knight, and the only defense for this knight is to play something like queen c1 or king f2. Other than that, there is no other moves. And after playing the move queen c5, we are also involving our bishop to the game with a move bishop to d4. Where actually the game after that is over because knight is simply lost. The game is simply over after that. He cannot defend the other way the knight. He doesn't have rook f3. So sometimes en passant is good. I believe that en passant is also a very strong move. But queen c5 is directly winning the piece. Yeah, bishop on g2 is absolutely closed. Bishop on g2 is completely out of the game. This bishop was out of the game from very beginning. White made a lot of bad moves. And now we just play the move bishop to d4. Many people would do the sacrifice, but this doesn't do anything. It's just trading the pieces weird way. Queen takes, bishop d4, they take here, you take back, and you just trade pieces. So here you just apply different pressure and go after his knight and also queen. So game is over after that. Nice tactics. There is no way how to get out of this. He could think a little bit more before pushing f4. Like firstly maybe going king h1 and though like f4 not good move. Like I'm not gonna take en passant. If I don't like the position, I have the option. But when you play the move f3, I don't really have the option of keeping my pawn on e4. I should take. But when you play f4, maybe I'll say, okay, I like the position now. You just close additionally your bishop and you don't have any more to counterplay to play the move f3. Next live is 1. Should I just turn on notification? Yeah, you should turn notification. Like anybody who likes this kind of streams should turn notification and receive the live stream when it appears. most probably tomorrow. I'm not sure, but most probably tomorrow. And now we take with a check, and the target is the queen. And he resigns the game. And that's game over. So let's take a look at analysis. So he opens with d4. I develop my knight on f6. He played c4. And I played g6. So I'm playing King's Indian. He played knight f3, I played bishop g7. This is a standard formation for our opening. And now this g3 line is very popular nowadays. Usually that's what Catalan players are playing. I used to play Catalan like maybe for 2 years in the past. And I like this opening really well. Nowadays, if you play Catalan, if people knows that you're playing Catalan, it's very easy to prepare because you prepare one odd sideline, one very tricky sideline, and then you're completely surprising white. So I think black is more prepared and better prepared against Catalan nowadays than generally Catalan players. But okay, Catalan is always solid opening. You cannot make any mistakes that easily with a logical play. So my opponent went for bishop g2, I went knight b7, and now I push the move e5. So how the line goes here, he should play the move e4. I'll play something like rook e8, and then h3 it goes. The point is, black usually want to take on d4 and open up the e line and pressure here. So typical setup, knight c5, then later on pressure this guy here. And h3 is usually great prophylaxis against the move knight g4. And also creating the space for the king on h2. What is wrong for this move h3, it's later we can go h5, h4 and try to undermine this part of the board. So for example, let's say here we go e takes d4, knight takes d4, we play knight c5, he defends this pawn with a rook, then we go something like, I think a5, just trying to stop b4. And at some point he will additionally defend this pawn like on e4. For example, queen c2. If I go knight takes here, this could make sense, but on the other side now there is very strong counterplay with bishop g5 and also harassing my queen. So that's not good strategy. Queen c2 is now very strong. At some point there is this like going further h4, h5. I know that there is also some knight g4 moves here, trying to take this knight on I think actually how the line goes. This, then I think h takes, or I think that's somehow how it goes. I'm not entirely sure. But okay, my opponent decided to take on e5, which allows me to take back with my pawn. Don't take with knight because you're gonna, I mean you can actually, and go into this endgame. But if you don't like the endgame in the King's Indian, if you want to play with the pieces, with a queen, you should keep it. And just take with a pawn here. Now I think e4 is something they could play, but on the other side that's creating the weakness on d4. So that's not a good spot. He played knight e5, and that's actually a wrong move. Because trading, especially the knight on f6, is a good part for black. It's simply opening up this diagonal. And now after c6, we are simply provoking them to take. We take back, of course, with queen. If we take back here with knight, that's also possible, but this drops the pawn. And we don't have enough compensation later on this diagonal. Queen takes f6. Bishop to g5, and now we play the move queen e6. So we are doing many things at once. We are stepping out of the problem, also attacking with tempo, and slowly preparing the move e4. So my opponent went the move b3, which was wrong thing, of course. He should start with something like queen c2, like b3, just because it opens the diagonal. That's why it was really wrong. You should not open up your dark squares when you have problems on the dark square, when you have problems with the dark square bishop. I thought that something like e4 could work, but this simply loses the pawn. He doesn't have time for e4. If we play here the move such a knight c5, or what actually I recommended here. I think I recommended something, I don't really remember, but maybe after the move b3, I was planning to play something else, like knight c5 or something. All of this works, but he wants to play maybe so badly now e4 to close our diagonal. That's what he wanted. So b3 was played, and now e4. Of course, you should use your time, open up your bishop. Like King's Indian bishop is really open, really important to open. That's sometimes what it matters a lot. to open up this bishop. Otherwise, you can get in problem with his passivity. He played knight e4, now queen e5. So we are generating double attack on bishop and knight. He needs to drop back bishop on e3, and now I play the move knight f6. Many people would play here the move f5, which is possible move, but it's much better to develop your minor pieces first and then later think about how you can extend your pawns because you have space advantage. Here actually after queen d2 followed by rook d1, white is getting back on the track because he's preparing to now use your dark squares against you. So that will be a little problem for us. That's the reason why I played the move knight f6 and looking forward to jump with my knight on g4 and eliminate this bishop before he managed to stuck on the d line. So he played rook b1, step out of the problem, and now just knight g4. So he can't move now the bishop on f4 because he simply again loses the knight on d4. At this point, my opponent played the move knight c2, trying to replace this bishop with a knight. I took it on e3, he took it back with a knight, and I just play bishop e6. Again, f5 is of course optional, but I wanted firstly to develop my minor pieces before I even decided to push any pawns. Like there's no need to extend your pawns with no reason. He played a4, and of course this is just desperate look for generating anything on the queen side because knight is looking at all these spikes. My bishop is outshining that piece. This bishop is absolutely closed. This rook is not in the game. Queen is not operating anything on the d line. We're gonna move the rook to the middle and try to strike the queen. Like pressure on e4 will come, but I have f5 and now defending that pawn. And now my opponent made a really bad move and pushed the f4 pawn. So now for the new viewers that didn't see the game, can somebody tell me why is this bad move? Why is this bad move? Why f4 is a bad move? What happens after f4? He obviously wants from us to... You can pin the horse. How you can pin the horse? With queen c5? With queen d4 or queen c5? Here? d4? En passant? d4. Okay, if I go on d4, I'll play queen c1. Queen d4, queen c1. Then how do you increase the pressure? I'm ready for king h1. And then I'll move my knight. Of course, black is still better, much better, but I think you missed your chance. What happened? Maybe queen d4 was not good. And also en passant is possible, as I mentioned, but it's not good as one move that wins the game directly. He can take here with rook. Of course, like black is much better. You can win this many ways. But when you have the chance to use it directly, you want to use it directly. And that's with the move queen c5. So you pin the knight. And now it's over. Why is this over? It's because if he goes queen c1, it's because if you go now, you have the angle to attack with bishop additionally. Because you leave the d4 square for your bishop. You keep it for your bishop. Your queen on d4 cannot do the job alone. When you go with bishop, now it's over. That's the point. And if he tries additionally to go king to f2, now he simply occupies very important pieces in defense. We can go rook d7, stack the rooks, And he, at some point, he will struggle a lot. Like if he goes rook d1, we go here. And now we have threats of taking on e4. So if he plays something like b4, then takes here, queen takes the queen, takes here, and now we win the rook. And now game is over. If he tries on rook d7 to go directly with move b4, then we have nice take on c4 because knight is pinned. So they're anyway facing consequences of this spin. Like it's so annoying. Like you can't really move any of these pieces. Your position is completely immobilized. You can't really do anything here. That's what is bad. It's simply really, really bad. So after I played the move queen c5, my opponent tried with queen c1, but after bishop to d4, now I'm simply pinning him, as you see. And now he's in a big trouble. He tried with b4, but after bishop takes e3, he resigns the game because we are winning the queen. Even if he moves the king away, we take the queen, they take back, and we can save the bishop back, or you can just play queen d4 if you don't want to trade queens, and anyway still attack the queen and later on even win on c4. If you take now on c4, they'll take you on e3 and they're getting the game back because they just won the piece. So you want to keep and maintain the piece, so you just play queen d4 and that's it. He resigned the game after bishop takes e3 and we won the game with king's Indian opening. So that was nice win. Again. That was working very well, right? All right. What do you think about this? We are 1 follower away from 20 followers for the goal. Let's reach the goal in the final moments of the stream. We need 1 follower for the goal. Let's reach that goal. Talking about Twitch, because there is also restream for the YouTube. So we are currently 1500, 1500, yeah. And in the next stream, we are getting stronger opponents. We can adjust this rating and type 15, 16, right? Oh, that's our rating. And next time we are continuing these speedruns. For those who don't know me, I'm FIDE Master Ilya Stanovic. My rating is 2200 FIDE, around 2700 chess.com, Blitz rating. And we are doing these educational speedruns to teach you something. Tomorrow, most probably, we're gonna have a live stream, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna get that information in a couple of hours. We're gonna live stream the over the board tournament, the Blitz tournament, the final Grand Prix with a very strong players. Like there will be Grandmasters 25, 2400, a lot of strong people. And if happen, from the Saturday, we might stream the Relton Cup in Sweden. That's some interesting last minute news. All right. We reached the goal. Yeah, that's great. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.